to the system is down.
I'm excited to welcome you to the Libertarian Party of Illinois State Convention. I want to thank our donors and volunteers for attending this year's convention. I would also like to thank HOI ABC and WEEK 25 for covering this debate, so give a round of applause for them. Also, please share the live stream from the HOI ABC Facebook page to other libertarians around the country so they can see this debate. This evening, we have a debate featuring, I believe it's 9 candidates now, who are seeking the Libertarian nomination for President of the United States. Moderating this debate with me tonight are Libertarian National Committee representatives John Phillips Jr. of Decatur, Illinois, and Josh Smith of Antioch, California. Josh is also a candidate for chair of the Libertarian National Committee. So give him a round of applause for running a campaign. And it's his birthday, and he's here to moderate a debate. And his cake is right here. Actually, presidential candidate Sam Robb bribed one of our moderators today, so I'm just going to throw that out there. We can all sing happy birthday to Josh. Let's do it. Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Josh. Happy birthday to you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ken, for breaking the eardrums of everyone in Central Illinois. All right, so without further ado, I want to welcome each of the candidates to the stage at this time. Starting with Vermin Supreme. Kenneth Blevins. Jacob Hornberger. Andy Williams Jr. John Monds. Sam Robb. Ken Armstrong. Dan, Taxation is Theft, Behrman. And last but not least, Adam Kokesh. All right, now here's our debate format this evening. Opening and closing statements will be 90 seconds each. Candidates are allotted 1 minute to respond to each question. Candidates speaking beyond their allotted time will have that extra time removed from their closing statement. You will hear this when you have 10 seconds remaining on your question. If a candidate is mentioned by name, then that candidate may offer up to 30 seconds for rebuttal. No extra time will be given to the original speaker, so it is in the candidate's best interest to focus on the issues. There will be a 15-minute break at 9:15 p.m. With the debate rules established, let's go ahead and get started. We'll start opening statements with John Monds.
Good evening, Libertarian Party of Illinois. It's awesome to be here. Thank you for organizing this wonderful debate. To give you a little bit of my background, I'm originally from Detroit, Michigan, graduated from high school in Florida, went to college in Atlanta, Georgia at Morehouse College, got a degree in banking and finance. I've been with the Libertarian Party since about 2004. I had previously been politically homeless for about 10 years. And I looked at all the platforms of all the major parties in Georgia. And when I read the Libertarian Party platform, that's when I knew I had found my home. I've run in 4 previous Libertarian races, and in those races I've gotten over 1.8 million votes cast for the Libertarian Party in Georgia. My inspiration for running is my great-great-grandparents, Columbus and Mourning Ferguson, who were enslaved in Georgia. And my race is in honor of them and the fact that I hate to know that what they went through as one minority group is what this government is trying to do to everybody nowadays. So some of the issues that are most important to me, bringing the troops home, ending the federal income tax, and ending the drug war. So I look forward to the debate tonight. Thank you very much.
Vermin Supreme.
Hey, any kids out there? Well, thanks for coming, kids. Because I'm running for the kids. I am the voice of a new generation. And kids are naturally anti-authoritarians. They are naturally nonconformist. They love humor. And kids want to change the world. And that is what kids and libertarians have in common. And I say I believe that we must present our vision for a transition to a post-state world. And we need to be able to explain how we will indeed alleviate the suffering that will occur as we pull the rug of government right out from under them. And we must do so in a way that makes sense to them. We must hold up libertarian examples. For example, the Libertarian Party of Tennessee right now is involved in disaster relief efforts in the great state of Tennessee. They've been compiling donations to help people clean up and restart. I'd like to point out a shout out to the Ohio Libertarian Party that is currently offering a lunch program. They're putting together a meal program to all the kids that are being displaced because the schools are being shut down. So it's all about libertarians showing that we do care, that we do have a plan, that there are options, and that we can present them as such. There's the Liberty Means community, raised over almost $1 million and is distributed to various people. We must demonstrate that we are indeed the party of love and compassion and caring. I believe that we are, and I believe that we can. Thank you.
Just one moment. We have another candidate who has arrived. Joe Jorgensen, thank you for joining us. All right, moving on to Sam Robb.
Thanks, sir. Good evening, folks. My name is Sam Robb, and I am just some guy from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm a father, I'm a Sunday school teacher, I am a former naval officer, and I am running for president of the United States because I believe our country's headed in the wrong direction. I also believe that we have a little bit of a problem. If I could read a prepared statement, a friend of mine helped me put this together. Olitalam se pem takas himi sem mak olsem still. Biagat sam fala we only know save kasam mining blong tok blong o gata. I'm sure all of you understood that. That is Bishlama. That's a trade language in Vanuatu. Shout out to all my friends there. Hey, Eileen. Hey, Isaac. That's what we sound like when we talk to non-libertarians sometimes. We engage, we use these shibboleths, we use these phrases, taxation is theft, and the Fed, and people look at you and say, well, what are you talking about? Isn't the government good? Isn't the government what's protecting us from coronavirus right now? Yeah, exactly. Ken's got it. We all get it. We know, but they don't. We need to communicate to them. We need to get a message across to them so they understand what we mean. We need someone who can communicate and speak their language. When we say, hey, government's too big, and the Democrats look at you and go, what do you mean? You want to get rid of Medicare? You can look at them and say, well, do you want to keep fighting those wars overseas? Republicans, hey, law enforcement's too harsh. What do you mean? Well, do you still want the DA or the Department of Environmental Affairs coming in and telling you can't collect rainwater? We need someone that can communicate with the American people, and I believe that I'm that person. Thank you.
Kenneth Blevins.
My name is Kenneth Blevins. I'm a welder pipe fitter from Oklahoma. I'm not a public speaker. I'm not very good at it. and I think that will show tonight in this debate. But what I am is I'm a graduate from Oklahoma State University with a degree in athletic training, which is the assessment, prevention, and treatment of athletic injury. And with that background, I looking at the federal government and fixing and treating the problems that it has. Along with the rest of the Libertarian platform, my biggest issues are getting term limits in Congress and transparency from where our money's going and who is paying our representatives to not represent us. Thank you.
Ken Armstrong.
Well, good evening. I'm Ken Armstrong, and I just kind of want to hearken back to nearly a year ago, summer of last year anyway, when I was out on the road campaigning, and I got an email, and it said, "Dear Mr. Armstrong, my name's Amanda Parsons," and that was the nice part of the email. The rest of it proceeded to colorfully explain to me what was wrong with my website. And I said, "I love this person. I need to know her." And I'm just so grateful to my dear friend Amanda. Okay, that said, I did have some prepared remarks this evening, and I'm going to trash them because I want to talk to you about something serious. Our president looked into the camera and lied to you about life and death matters. The Centers for Disease Control hid facts that they knew from you and from the American public about life and death matters. And you know what Congress is doing about that right now? Absolutely nothing. The reason I'm running for president is because with experience at elected county level, experience in Washington, and a whole bunch of stuff in between, I'm ready to kick the bums out and get started with a libertarian government in this country.
Jacob Hornberger.
It's an honor and a pleasure to be with y'all here at the Illinois Libertarian Party State Convention. You know, this party's been in existence for 49 years. We can play it safe in this presidential race. We can run a presidential candidate that's going to call for reform of Social Security, health care reform, immigration reform, reform the DEA, the CIA, the TSA. And if we play it safe, I have no doubt that we can get that 3%, maybe 4.2. I say, scotch that. I say, let's roll the dice this time. I say, let's do something bold. Because you see, with boldness, okay, we may fall back to 0.5%, 1%. But with boldness, you have a chance for achieving something big. When you play it safe, you don't have that chance. And something bold means running a presidential race that's based purely on libertarian principles, that dismantles all these welfare state programs instead of reforming them, that makes the positive case for liberty to our fellow Americans, that shows how different we are from these two parties that are really just one party divided into two wings. I want to make the positive case for liberty to our fellow Americans. And that's why I'm here asking for your vote, your support, and your nomination. Thank you very much.
Mr. Behrman.
I'm Dan, Taxation is Theft Behrman. I was born in Los Angeles, California. I identify as a Texan, and I'm running for President of the United States from Mexico. I don't care about their borders. So this campaign has been really interesting, and I've been involved with the Libertarian Party for several years, and I've always had a struggle with them because I want this to be a free country, and nobody knows how to do it. Because, I mean, if we would have already figured it out, we would have already done it by now, right? So how do we get this message out to enough people? How do we actually get libertarians elected to a high enough position where we can actually cause some change? What is the highest position? Is the highest position in this country, is it the president? Or is it the individual? Is it all of the citizens in this country? Is it us, ultimately, the law enforcers, who can go to the federal government and say, that's the law, the Constitution, we are the enforcers, and we will force you to follow that law that you swore an oath to? And when we can get the country to understand that that's what the government's role is, and when we can shove it back in its place, then we can be free. We're already free. We can already make any decision we want. Sure, there are criminals out there who are going to try to tell us there are consequences we have to face if we make decisions they don't like. But ultimately, we have to recognize that we're already free. And that's the message we need to spread.
Andy Williams, Jr.
Mic check, mic check. My name is Andy Williams, Jr. I'm straight out of Illinois, born in Aurora. This is my home state. And I'm going to tell you one thing about libertarian. Limited government, maximum freedom, all the time. We were born with that. And coming from a generation of sharecroppers, and also coming from an ex-convict, former gang member, drug dealer, I knew what it was like to be discriminated against the police. Here I am, 47 years old, still being discriminated against the police. Why? Because of ignorance. So what my job is to do is to hold them accountable. And it doesn't take a lot to hold them accountable other than enforcing the law that's already in place. I'm running as a human right candidate because human rights is something we were born with. Can't nobody take that from us. And if you want freedom, sometimes you got to take it. And that's what I've been doing. That's what I'm going to continue to do. And one thing, when I found out about the Libertarian Party, I looked inside my heart. I saw a torch there. I'm like, what? I was born a libertarian. I didn't know the principles were so real. It's the freedom from oppression is what liberty stands for. My ancestors fought for liberty. Now it's time for me to walk in that freedom. I ask that you guys help me walk in that freedom. I'm the only candidate that represents the hip-hop community. We have a rap song coming out called The Hood Candidate. We rocking this like never before because my generation is the change. Thank you.
Mr. Kokesh.
Hello, Libertarian Party of Illinois, and thank you for not being frightened away from coming tonight by the corona scare. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but this is a serious crisis. I mean, we have 2 empty seats on this stage, so I want to first start by thanking the coronavirus for narrowing the field for the rest of us. But in a very serious sense, we do have a crisis. And it's not a health crisis. We have a crisis of leadership. The headline on Drudge Report right now says, Trump to be tested. It's an emergency. He has already been tested and he has failed. The response from the government to this crisis has been to increase the secrecy to prevent everybody from being able to make rational decisions. The fear and the doubt is a bigger threat than the disease. And what's he doing now? Well, I know anytime there's a crisis, what do we have to do? Well, we better give the bankers a few $1 trillion, right? No. It is further sign of the failure in this. And this is the opportunity for the libertarians to take leadership. Because I think every time you see, hey, we got to be afraid of this. It's that scene from V for Vendetta. Make them remember why they need us. We don't need them, and as libertarians, we should be the ones to tell America we don't have to be, and we are not afraid. Thank you.
Joe Jorgensen.
Hey, it's so great to be back in Illinois. Illinois is my home state. I was actually born in Libertyville, Illinois, so I guess I was destined for liberty, and I wanted to talk about that for just a minute. When I first discovered the Libertarian Party in 1979, I was just so ecstatic, and I probably had an experience similar to what a lot of you had. I thought liberty and freedom were just the greatest things ever, and it was just so obvious. But the more I talked to people, the more depressed I got, because I got comments like, well, you know, you're just selfish, or, well, you don't care about the poor. And the classic, well, you know, not everyone's as smart as you are, so we have to have Social Security. I had no idea what I was doing wrong until I later became a marketing rep for IBM and then built my $1 million company. I was selling the features of liberty, not the benefits. We libertarians are just so excited about liberty that we can't wait to talk about liberty. We forget all the wonderful benefits we have. Our system is the most compassionate system out there, the best system, the best solution for what people are looking for, and we just don't know how to explain it to people a lot of times because we innately are interested in liberty. So as your candidate, I see my job as to show the other people why the Libertarian Party is the home for them. Thank you.
All right, now we're going to move on to the question portion of the debate. The first question is, many in this room know that Governor Gary Johnson received 4.5 million votes in 2016. How do you plan to beat that result? And furthermore, how do you plan to use that result to build the party membership? And we'll start with Sam Robb.
Thank you, gentlemen. So we have an opportunity this election. If you look at the Democratic side of the House, right, Bernie is getting screwed again. They're doing their dead level best to make sure that he does not end up anywhere near the nomination. And those people are the ones who want change. That sounds an awful lot like the people in this room. As a matter of fact, this last election, 2016, we had a number of Bernie supporters come over into the Libertarian Party. We had a number of Green supporters in Allegheny County come and check out the Libertarian Party. This is an opportunity to reach out to those who are involved in the political system, like we all were at one point, who really do desire change, who see that there's something wrong with the system, and show them, come alongside of them and show them that liberty works. Recruit them into the party. Get them voting for us this year, get them supporting us next year, and get them campaigning for us the year after. Thank you.
Kenneth Blevins.
How do we expand the Libertarian Party? We have to be more vocal. We have to be more in the spotlight. We have to put ourselves out there so people can see what it is to be a libertarian, what it is to be free, and the benefits of that. So we have to band together, all of us, and put forth our best image to give them a good candidate that they can get behind, that they can believe in, and they can follow, and that they can trust will not screw them over like every candidate from the two-party system. Thank you.
Mr. Armstrong.
Well, first of all, we're never going to grow the party if we wait till May every 4 years to get started with our campaign. Yeah, right. One of the problems that we've got in our system is that we wait for a year after everyone else has got a head start, and then we start running. So what Dawn and I have been doing for nearly the last year is running all over the country. We've been to 47 of the 48 contiguous states. We've covered over 45,000 miles now. We've met thousands of people, and we've talked to them about the principles of the party. We've talked to them about what libertarianism really is in their life. And we have begun the business of campaigning, because when we get the nomination in May, we need to be ready to hit the deck running. We need to get out there among the people, hearing them, talking to them, and demonstrating to them why we are the greatest hope for America today.
Jacob Hornberger.
When I was on the platform committee in the 1990s, there were people who were trying to water down the platform in the attempt to get votes. And my response was, are you crazy? Our principles are our greatest asset. That if we focus on the principles and not the votes will take care of themselves. I echo what Andy's saying. We go after African Americans and we show them the racially bigoted nature of this drug war on all drugs, not just marijuana. We go after younger people and we say, why do you have to be forced by Social Security to be good and caring? Why can't you have the opportunity to do that with your own money? Why do you have to be forced by the IRS? So we target people that are being victimized by these Democrats and Republicans. We target people who don't vote, people that naturally are disgusted with the two-party system and what both of these Democrats and Republicans have done to our country. And we lead America in a better, more peaceful, prosperous, harmonious direction.
Dan, taxation is theft, Behrman.
So what's really important for us to see is that the people in this country are divided into different groups. Not everybody's the same, and we're not going to win them all over with the same message. What we've been doing with our campaign is we've been reaching out to those different groups and figuring out how to win them over. We've been winning over Trump supporters and Bernie Sanders supporters and Andrew Yang supporters, people from the far left and the far right with a libertarian message. We're not doing this by watering the message down. There's a huge difference between watering the message down and connecting with people and letting people understand, hey, we're just like you. We know the healthcare system is fucked up and it's screwing up our lives and we can't afford it. But there's a different solution to it. Let us show it to you. It's really that simple. And this has been very effective with our campaign. We just need to get it in front of more people.
Mr. Andy Williams, Jr.
There's about 50 million people living below the poverty level. William Barber is the leader of the Poor People's Campaign. William Barber took over from Dr. Martin Luther King's mission about the Poor People's Campaign in my beloved community. My pastor right now was baptized by Dr. Martin Luther King, and he baptized me. What does that have to do with it? It means I got access to Bernice King now. See, I'm going after endorsements following principles of those that went before us. You know, like Dr. King. Nelson Mandela went from prison to president. That's me, from prison to president. When you reach the hip-hop community, because see, now I got access to Jay-Z, I got access to Master P, I got access to the Ghetto Boys, Jay Prince. These are the people that are a voice for this generation, and they're saying, look, it's one of us running. How did you get the balls to think that you could run for president, Andy? I said, I got tired of being oppressed. So you always want somebody to do something for you. It's time we do something for ourselves. Stop asking somebody to be something for you and do it yourself. That's how we're going to grow the party, and that's how I'm going to get this campaign. Thank you.
Mr. Adam Kokesh.
Well, it's been said that the Libertarian Party needs to differentiate itself from the old parties to get any real traction. And that's why, with this platform, I'm the only candidate on the stage saying America doesn't need a president. We can localize government. We can get it down to the community level. This is a practical, principled, unifying plan that brings Americans together from across the spectrum. And, by the way, comes over the top of all the silly internal divides. In terms of how we use this to grow the party, secession is already polling higher than any libertarian presidential candidate ever has. Localization is customizing government so that everybody gets what they want. Let's give people what they want and win. Let's build this party from a debate club into a coalition by being more inclusive, more welcoming, and saying, look, there's only one litmus test that we care about, and it's that box that you check when you join the party. I oppose the use of force to achieve social and political goals.
Dr. Joe Jorgensen.
Yes, votes are important, but there are other ways to measure success. Gary Johnson brought in 7,500 new members. Some of you probably don't realize I was Harry Brown's running mate in 1996. We actually brought in 8,500 new members. Harry Brown and I doubled the size of the party in 1995 and 1996, which is the largest growth we've ever had in the party since then. So yes, votes are important, but membership is also important because we need candidates at all levels, not just the presidential level. We need state, local, federal candidates. We need donors, people knocking on doors, supporters, and so forth. So what I have done to help do that is to bring back a lot of the Harry Brown team. Steve Dasbach was national chair and then executive director. He's my campaign chair. Joe Hauptman from Indiana still holds the record for number of votes for a U.S. congressional race from 1998. He's my campaign manager, and on down the line. Thank you.
Mr. John Monds.
I believe one of the best ways that we can grow the party is having a candidate, one that can show and has shown a track record of success as a libertarian. Also, the message is the key. There should be no confusion on Election Day about the issues and where libertarians stand. We should not be confused as a Republican light or Democrat heavy or anything like that. So the message is the key. Also, to grow the party, you need a candidate like myself who is committed to go to every state, work with the executive committee on what's best, for example, with Illinois. You need your top of the ticket candidate here in the state. You set up an event, whatever is best for the state, and I'll be here. Also, another message is the fact that we reach out to the American people. We have whatever candidate we have will have the best freedom message versus the other ones, and we need to ask the American people, would you rather, is there a county in the country that will vote for freedom? And keep pushing that message. Thank you.
Mr. Vermin Supreme.
There are 3.9 million high school kids that graduate every year. Give me two of those years, that's 8 million kids. Add that to the 17 million college students, and that's a pool of 25 million voters. And if we are able to get 1 out of 4 of those kids to vote for us, well, that is 6.5 million, also known as 5%. There are also an endless stream of subcultures in America. There are Comic-Con nerds, there are roller derby girls, there are cam girls, there are kinky sex nerds, there are crypto nerds, there are political nerds, there are Robert's Rules of Order nerds, and they all fall under the umbrella of nerd culture, and they are my natural constituent base. There are hundreds of millions or tens of millions and almost 100 million plus disaffected, disillusioned, and disgusted individuals in America who are totally done with politics, but I believe that my campaign can reinvigorate these people, re-enlighten them, and bring them into our party. Thank you.
Candidates, some of you have alluded to this already, and the failure of our current government to handle this situation. What would you consider to be libertarian solutions to the issue we currently face with the coronavirus? First is Ken Armstrong.
Well, I'm glad you asked. First of all, I need to say that as a former chief of healthcare quality assurance for the Coast Guard, I'm familiar with how the federal government handles healthcare, and we don't need more of that. But what we do need is information. What we do need is a group of people who care about collaboration. What we saw when the NBA, for example, found out what was really going on, they said, we don't need to bring people together in these big halls. We can postpone our games. Disneyland said, sure, we make $1 billion a day with the park open, but we don't need to make people sick. We can keep the park closed. Volunteer efforts will win this thing, but we need information, and the government withholding information and lying to us is the opposite of what we need for them. We need to, if they're going to be involved at all, bringing groups together to the table to collaborate on voluntary solutions to the problem.
Mr. Hornberger.
Yeah, for 30 years I've been arguing that the root of America's healthcare crisis is Medicare and Medicaid. We had the finest healthcare system in history. before Medicare and Medicaid were adopted. And anybody who thinks that they're going to come up with a solution to health care without getting rid of this tumor on the body politic is living in la-la land. And we see the results of that now. We have this paternalistic government where people are looking to their leaders for solutions. And we see what these leaders are doing. They're running around like chickens with their head cut off. And now you've got a stultified healthcare industry that can't make a move without some government official squelching them. Imagine if we had a spontaneous order where the government and healthcare are totally separated, where the healthcare industry is guiding us on what we need to do in treatment, in precautions, in procedures. I'd much rather have my faith in the private sector in dealing with this problem than with these government officials who are just destroying our liberty even more than they already have.
Mr. Behrman.
Yeah, I could use that. One of the first things is probably just to make sure to tell everybody, don't panic. Thanks.
As you cough into the microphone.
I'm coughing all over the microphone. Self-quarantine. I mean, everyone's trying to push the mandatory vaccinations now. What if it comes by mosquitoes? There's everything the government has a solution for is a farce, and usually it's to sell us something. But I think there's also a criminal nature of what's going on out there, and I think there are some people who need to go to jail. Like any government agent, any governor who threatens to arrest somebody for collecting rainwater, something that, what do they call it, social spacing, where you don't need to get too close to other people. Well, we could have a lot more of that if there weren't all these anti-prepper laws out there. So I think we can look to government and see that it's actually creating a lot more problems, as usual. Let's stop that first.
Mr. Williams.
My aunt out of Fort Worth, Texas, is a natural healer. And what I know is a lot of solutions come from ordinary people. If we keep asking the government to give us solutions, they're governing us. So what I do is I look to the ordinary people that already have the solutions. For me, for every problem, there's a solution, and there's nothing new under the sun. You can look at your Clorox wipes and see that coronavirus says this helps that from years ago. So things are already being in existence, but like other candidates have said, it's been hidden from us. So when you start making people aware of the solutions and giving the power to us to come up with the solution, and when it works for one, try it over here and it should work for all. That's what I would do about the coronavirus. In fact, can you pass me one of those Coronas over there? That's what I would do. Thank you.
Mr. Kokesh.
Well, the libertarian answer to this is like for so many other things, it's kind of like the government answer, but without the crappy government part. And in this case, we see how obvious it is with the secrecy. Trump ordering deliberations to be conducted in secret. Who knows what information we're getting straight out of the Chinese government? Because we have this paradigm of trusting authority, of trusting the most violent people in the world. And the danger of the secrecy of this not only is in our response to the immediate crisis, but all the things that come out of these emergency powers, forced vaccinations, forced quarantines, all of those things. And if you can just look at the threat in perspective, it is insane that we are in a state of emergency over the coronavirus, and we haven't declared a state of emergency over the United States government itself.
Dr. Jorgensen.
There is a dangerous myth out there that we as libertarians have to squash, and that's that we currently have a free market system. I can't tell you how many times I hear people say, well, we've got a free market system, it doesn't work, now we need something else. We need single payer, we need socialized medicine, we need government in charge, we need Medicaid for all. No, We have not had a free market system since before World War II, and this coronavirus is just a great example of that. We don't have competing companies out there working for us with the best quality and the lowest price. We've got government out there bottlenecking things. We can't even get tested in this country like they are in South Korea. We have got to get to a free market system, and we've got to explain how having the medical community, having doctors compete for us is the best method there is.
Mr. Monds.
I think the libertarian message on health care is the fact that we as individuals are all responsible for our own lives. I remember when I ran for Georgia ran for governor in Georgia in 2010, speaking to the Medical Association of Georgia, I talked about how is it that if someone decides that their favorite food is chili cheese fries and they smoke 2 packs a day, how would it be their neighbor's responsibility to take care of their health? That is a bad idea. The message is this: if you take your life seriously, you'll be better off than trusting the government. What about just remember Katrina. Make examples like that. If your life is dependent on the government, good luck. You're going to be worse off if you don't take responsibility for yourself. And as libertarians, that's the type of message we need to share with people.
Indeed, because this is an actual test of the libertarian principle of personal responsibility and people being responsible for themselves. And of course, the self-quarantine is a very good example of that. People taking responsibility for their health and the health of the community and trying to minimize and quash the pandemic. I think it is, of course, a very teachable moment because, once again, after any of these things, it just proves the fact, it speaks to the fact that the government can't save you, the government is not going to save you, but that we, the people, if we are cooperative and get it all together, that we can indeed save ourselves through cooperation. So please wash those hands. Please check in on your elderly neighbors, make sure if they need groceries that happens. And once again, it's about strengthening our families, strengthening our communities, and lessening the need for government in our lives. Thank you.
Mr. Robb.
Yeah, what they said. That's pretty much it, right? When we're not fighting with each other as libertarians, we're pretty much in agreement. And there is nothing that was said here tonight from any of these other candidates that I would disagree with. Certainly, and especially not, and I'm going to name him Vermin, so you can have another 30 seconds, sir, if you want, with the tremendous note about our responsibility to neighbors, showing people libertarian in action, showing people that they are libertarians. When push comes to shove, that they're not worried about the government. They're not spending time thinking, oh, when is the government going to swoop in and save me? They are going out and they are acting to take care of themselves, to take care of their families, to take care of their neighbors, to take care of their communities. That is a talking point. That is a place where we can start a conversation about, hey, so what about the next disaster? What are you going to do then? Who are you going to rely on? Is it going to be the government? Or is it going to be your friends in the neighborhood that have already demonstrated that they care about you, they love you, and they are willing to take care of you? Thank you.
Absolutely. 100% for sure. Together, we can do it. We can totally get there, and we can do whatever we set our minds to, and it is the perfect opportunity to really start thinking about the next one and how we will respond, and how we can respond to similar disasters, and how we can be more efficient in trying to build these communities up that we're going to need to make happen, because the government will inevitably fail again. Thank you.
Mr. Blevins.
They have already all talked about it and touched on each one of these, but I mean, honesty, education, individual responsibility, and voluntary solutions. I mean, if given the education and the means to do it, we will take care of each other. We do not need the government to do that for us. Thank you.
right, on to our next question. Who is someone outside of politics that inspires you and why? Starting with Dan, Taxation is Theft, Behrman.
I guess I'd have to say Bob Marley. He's got this song where he says, "Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our own minds." And I think that's absolutely the biggest point of this whole thing. We're not waiting for government to come and tell us, okay, you can be free now. We have to realize that on our own. And when we realize that we're free and that nobody has the right to tell us how to run our lives, how to live our lives, what we can put into our own bodies, what we can do with each other consensually, once we come to that realization, just the feeling of freedom that you will have will be so much more than the feeling you got when they told you to read the 10 Amendments in whatever school you went to. Come back with a warrant.
Andy Williams, Jr.
Well, I got about 100 people that inspire me outside of politics, but I would say right now Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey, in my generation, a lot of people talk about Marcus Garvey. In fact, I met his son, Julius Garvey. He's a medical doctor. But the reason why Marcus Garvey inspires me the most is because he had this piece that said, "Man, know thyself." And he said, if 4 million Negroes were just to get to know who they are, because nature is subject to man. Man is not subject to government. And what I feel like our generation has, and the majority of the world has done, is voluntarily put themselves in oppression. For me, like I said before, there's nothing new under the sun. History shows you the blueprint. When I look at the solutions to America's problems, I can look back at the Black Panther Party with the healthcare clinic and things of that, and the Black Wall Street economic development in our community. So I say that because Marcus Garvey is the one that inspires Andy the most right now. Thank you.
Adam Kokesh.
I have a tattoo that I got when I was in Iraq, Veterans Against the War, with a quote from Jimi Hendrix. "When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace." And that has really informed my politics since then. And I've taken inspiration from that into this campaign in the fundamental premise of this, of saying, if you give me the ring of power, I'm not even going to put it on. I'm going to throw it directly into the fire. And I'm glad that you asked outside of politics, because inside politics, with everybody running for office at some level, you're saying, give me this power, and I will be better at using it than the other guy. I think when we really embrace the love that is at the core of the message of freedom, we're going to come up with a way to connect with people that is so much more effective and so much more powerful in terms of policy, that's uniting and inclusive because it's based on that fundamental value of love.
Dr. Jorgensen.
I don't know, would Axl Rose be an acceptable answer? A Midwestern guy who got on the bus with $20 to his name, hitchhiked half the way to Hollywood, and somehow not just couch surfing, but everything else surfing made it. So really, anybody who pulls themselves up by the bootstraps, I think, is a great model and something that we need to look towards for inspiration.
John Monds.
As I mentioned earlier, my great-great-grandparents who were enslaved in Georgia are my inspiration. And I can only imagine what they had to go through in their lives. And in thinking of that, I realized that in my life, I have an opportunity to make a difference. And that's very important to me. So that's why I honor them with my candidacy. But there's plenty of others in life. Since I have a little bit of time, my wife inspires me, love of my life, mother of my 4 children, who allows me to do this. My children inspire me. We home birthed all our kids, and that just changed my life, seeing them being born and that inspiration. So they all inspire me to get out here and go from state to state, city to city, talking about freedom. And that's what's so important, is moving the needle forward. Thank you.
Vermin Supreme.
I'd say personally, short list is George Carlin, Pat Paulson, Lenny Bruce, Bill Hicks, and Richard Pryor. These are people who are able to offer vicious, brutal critiques, who are able to slam the status quo and just shred them and make people laugh at the same time. And that has certainly informed a lot of what I do. Thank you.
Sam Robb.
Greater love hath no man than this, that he lay down his life for his friends. I'm a preacher. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. And those words resonate with me and tell me exactly what we are missing in today's political climate. It is a climate of give me. It's a climate of power. It's a climate of I want that ring of power. It is not a climate of I will take it and I will bear it. It is not a climate of I will serve and I will sacrifice and I will give. What you see up here is a group of people who are willing to sacrifice, who have sacrificed in a lot of ways, who are willing to give, who want to serve our country, not rule it. If you ask me who's been one of my greatest influences, it would be Jesus Christ. Thank you.
Kenneth Blevins.
Who outside of politics inspires me? That'd be my family, my friends, and my coworkers. Everyone in this nation that busts their ass every day to have a portion of their work stolen by the federal government, by the state governments, before they can provide for their family. The ones that sacrifice time away from home, time away from their kids, in order to work, just to have that money stolen from them. So that's who I'm doing this for. I'm not doing it for me. I'm not doing it for any kind of power or prestige. I'm doing it for the people that inspire me, my family, my friends, and my coworkers, and everybody that works in this nation. Thank you.
Ken Armstrong.
Well, my grandpa Cobb was, in his day, he was famous in vaudeville and Grand Ole Opry. He was born in 1895 in the hills of Tennessee. And the thing that really impressed me about Grandpa, in about 1910, he was in the Ku Klux Klan. And when I was 7 years old, he was the person who first taught me you don't judge a person by the color of their skin, but by the content of your character. At a time when it wasn't very popular, he was pointing to Martin Luther King as somebody to pay attention to. My grandfather taught me that we can change, and we need to know that in this party. We need to not look at where somebody was 15 or 20 or 30 years ago. We need to find out who they are today, because evolution in character is a good and a healthy and a strong thing, and it makes us all better.
Jacob Hornberger.
Well, since Ron Paul's no longer a politician, I would have to say Ron Paul. I mean, he's one of my real life heroes. But outside of that, I'd like to share with you some of the people that have been big role models for me. Writers: Ludwig von Mises, Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged, Frederick Bastiat, his little book, The Law, and Leonard Read, who was the founder of the Foundation for Economic Education. We see this dichotomy in the party today where people say, well, you know, the purists versus the pragmatists. Because of these writers, I don't see any difference. To me, libertarianism is not only the key to liberty, it is the solution to all these crises: healthcare, immigration, foreign policy. That libertarianism accomplishes both. And that's what I think we need to communicate to the American people, that we have the right direction for this country.
Candidates, as you know, a very important aspect of this party is down ballot candidates. How will you receiving the nomination affect Libertarians running down ballot? And we'll start with Mr. Adam Kokesh.
Localization, localization, localization. Push that power down and give every Libertarian who's running for a local office the chance to say they are really going to be able to take charge and make a powerful difference in their communities. I think that's huge. The other thing is that we've shown the hustle in this campaign. You probably saw, well, I know Josh saw because he spent some time on our bus outside, No Force One. We've been traveling the country, going to as many state conventions as possible, and being able to show that support for state organizations, for county organizations, and being able to go and make the appearances. If you're trusted with the nomination, as I hope to be, as we all hope to be, I think we have to put in the hustle to actually get out and make those appearances and show up for local candidates, show up for county affiliates, and that's what we've been doing for years with this campaign. I think every candidate's going to have some version of the same answer here on that one, but really in the message, what makes that critical difference is to say, I'm not going to continue the system of concentrated power, we're going to localize it.
Thank you. Dr. Joe Jorgensen.
Yes, having the presidential and vice presidential candidate out there supporting candidates downstream is important. When I was running for U.S. Congress, Nancy Lord came to Greenville, South Carolina, and we went to a concert-type venue, which we had set up. The people were very pro-libertarian, and they body surfed us across, so that was pretty awesome. So I would like to see us in similar situations. I do have a PhD. I think research is important. I do plan on having a full-time person, well, not full-time, but somebody set aside whose job is to just research the news, keep us up to date, and whatever we come up with on a daily basis for what's going on in the world, I'm going to share with the congressional and senatorial candidates, U.S. Congress, U.S. Senate, so that they have the research done for them and they can come up with the good answers.
Mr. John Monds.
I understand what it is to work hard for this party. I've been doing it for around 15 years, whether it's been on the local level, starting a local affiliate. I've worked it for over 10 years on the Georgia XCOM, making those decisions. And like I mentioned earlier, you have to have a candidate, and I think all of us would be, that at the top of the ticket is willing to go around the country to each state, work with the executives of that state affiliate to find out what's best for that state and be willing to commit to doing activities. Another thing that I've been doing since I've been running is at every convention, if there's other candidates there, taking pictures with candidates, helping promote them in their races. When I was out in California, Nick Wildstar was running for Fresno mayor. Got a chance to take a picture with him, and when it was time for his election, just send a shout out on social media saying, hey, if you're out in Fresno, support this guy. He's a great libertarian candidate. Those are the type of things that are successful in helping the down ballot candidates.
Mr. Vermin Supreme.
I've got about 50,000 Twitter followers currently, and every day that I go and scan and read that, they list the related searches, and inevitably in everyday related searches is libertarian, libertarianism, Libertarian Party, and Libertarian Platform. And so I can say that my campaign has been drawing a whole lot of eyeballs in the direction of Libertarian Party, and a lot of people who would not have ever given the party a second look are indeed looking at it freshly, and they're having to question their preconceived notions about the negatives that they think about the party. And so I will say for down ballot tickets, yes, I am drawing a whole lot of eyeballs, and I'm bringing a lot of people to look your way. And if you have to explain the boothead guy, well, that's on you. That's your pivot. You're the politician. You can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Supreme. Mr. Sam Robb.
So when people ask me, why did you decide to run for president, one of the things I tell them is I was left unsupervised. But in actuality, honestly, the president should be one of the least important offices in the country. Really. Let's be honest, right? Running for a local office, the idea of doing that is a little bit scary because you're actually influencing people's lives. As a presidential candidate, as a supporter of a presidential candidate, my job would be to make sure that I'm there for those people, because they're the ones that are really going to be impacting lives. They're the ones that are going to be showing people this is how libertarianism works. This is what is going to get people on our side, on our ticket, voting for us and supporting for us. And that's not just something in this election year. That's something that needs to be a commitment from the candidate, not just for this year, but for the year following and the year following and all the way through to the next election, because that's what we need, a sustained effort to make sure that we're reaching people and changing hearts and minds.
Thank you, Mr. Robb. Mr. Kenneth Blevins.
If I was honored with the nomination for this candidacy, then it would show everybody that no matter your background, no matter where you're from, if you set your mind to it, if you work hard, you can do it. You can help out at some level. The President of the United States is a figurehead. Like Sam said, it should be the least important. And if you look at a totem pole in Native American culture, the one on the very top, that's really the least important. The base is the foundation. That's what carries the load. And that's what your local government will do. That's where the power should be. Thank you.
Mr. Ken Armstrong.
Well, I absolutely agree with Sam and Kenny Blevins that we in fact, I don't even like the term down ballot. I don't think we should be looking down the ballot at local office. I think that's the top of the ballot in our country. But for the last year, Dawn and I have been busy coordinating and networking congressional candidates. Just in the last week, we were in Steubenville, Ohio for a stump event with Oscar Herrera, who's running for 96th State Rep District in Ohio. And then the next night we were in Youngstown, we were in Cincinnati, with Kevin Kahn, who's running for U.S. House from the Ohio 1st Congressional District. So we're in the business now of putting these candidates forward because they are where the movement will happen in this country.
Thank you, Mr. Armstrong. Would you like a rebuttal? Yeah, you were mentioned. Would you like a rebuttal? 30 seconds.
Not so much a rebuttal, but you were in Steubenville and you didn't even say hi? Do not, seriously, any one of you candidates, if you're around the Pittsburgh area, please do not just blow by us. Stop, say hello, let us take you out to dinner, okay? That's all.
Mr. Jacob Hornberger.
When I was in the 5th grade, I campaigned in the John Kennedy campaign, and I can't tell you how exciting it was. And I think that you have the ability this time to put together a really strong ticket, president and vice president. And if you get that kind of exciting campaign that's energizing our fellow Americans, it's going to have an effect, a coattail effect on everybody down ticket. And when I'll always vote Libertarian, I always do. But when somebody runs a Republican-like campaign, they just lose me. I lose that excitement. I mean, I got into this race for one reason. I want to be free. And I want to talk about liberty to our fellow Americans. And that means strong libertarian principles. And if we do that, we can excite people. We can make this an exciting race. And I can't tell you how great that is when everybody's coming together and forgetting the divisions and coming together with a strong ticket. That's what I'd like to achieve for this party.
Thank you, Mr. Hornberger. Daniel, Taxation is Theft, Behrman.
In 2016, I worked with John McAfee's campaign, and as part of that campaign, we had a program called Vote Different, where we built websites and helped cross-ballot candidates, down-ballot candidates, we called it, with building websites and other things that they needed, some of the bare essentials. With my campaign now, we've already started what we're calling a SWAT team. We call it the Skilled Warriors Abolishing Taxes. And we've already got what we're calling cross-ballot candidates lined up. We've already got 20 of them that we're starting to work with to build websites and give print material. And when we do this, we're sharing the cost. We're adding more credibility because it's not a single libertarian out there on their own. And we're also sharing in the resources like volunteers to be able to make sure we get these and knock on more doors and reach more people. We're sharing information as far as social media, resources, how to do online advertising, and helping them to build their platform and get the literature that they need to really get people to think and start voting for them. So we've already done a lot, and we're going to continue to expand this program.
Thank you, Mr. Berman. Mr. Andy Williams, Jr.
Okay. I believe there's 435 seats that's up for election in Congress and 33 in the Senate. I have a movement right now called Occupy Congress 2020, and I'm looking for people to fill those seats. So that's what I've been doing already. As the job description, it's like 8 roles of the president, and one of those descriptions is chief citizen of all. And the chief citizen of all represents what's best in the interest of the public. And as Mr. I ain't gonna say his name. No, Sam said about Jesus, Jesus didn't come to the world to be served. He came to serve. That's the greatest among you should be your servant. Dr. King said it in the Drum Major Instinct, and that's what you would do. As president, as a candidate, I've already talked to Josh Flynn, Danny Moloff, like, listen, I'm going to rock with you guys because we're in Illinois, because this is where I'm at right now. So if I can't help home first, that wouldn't make sense to me. So it's got to be home. I talked to Kevin about trying to get other people to recruit to run for office. So I'm going to help every person that rocks liberty. Thank you.
All right, that is the first half of our debate. We will have a 15-minute recess. We'll reconvene at 9:25. So excited to see you guys back for the last hour. Thank you. All right, we have all our candidates back, and I will hand the mic over to John for our next question.
Candidates. We've all watched these debates, and we followed you along on Facebook, and we hear all the rhetoric and all the talk about libertarian ideals, and all those things are wonderful things that we all fully support. Let's get practical for a minute. From the confines of executive powers, what specific practical changes would you make were you elected to the office of president? Starting with Vermin. Vermin Supreme, sir.
Well, thank you. That's a very wonderful hypothetical question, and I will say that I will allow it. And I believe it has always been my understanding as an anarchist and as a libertarian that the most important and really the only way that we'll be able to disable or get rid of the government is essentially to disengage from the government, essentially creating alternative structures and alternative systems and alternative services, be they private or however they are voluntary. So if I was president, to go hypothetical on it, I would command that everybody help everybody. It would be an executive order. Thank you.
Mr. Monds.
When you look at what the president can do unilaterally, the top of the list, I think, for most of the candidates would be bringing the troops home, ending the wars, bringing the drones home. That's something the president can do by himself. The second issue that I talk about is the fact that there are over 81,000 federal prisoners that are incarcerated because of drug offenses. We have to talk about the president's ability to pardon and commute sentences. Most of those 81,000 folks have been incarcerated for nonviolent, victimless crimes. We have to poke the other candidates about their shabby records historically of releasing these people. The fact that across the states, more and more decriminalization is going on. Why are these people still in prison? That's an issue we can win on. The other thing is, I did announce my short list for Supreme Court candidates, possible nominees, and in doing so, promoting those who are fighting in the legal world for liberty.
Mr. Blevins.
To expand on what Mr. Monds said about the typical libertarian platform, about bringing the troops home and ending the drug war, my biggest platform is term limits in Congress. I think a 12-year term limit in Congress, 8 in House, 12 in Senate, or a mixture of both, would help the country to get the corruption out of Congress and to get it out of the highest power in the land. So if we could get new blood in there, get water flowing through the pond. A stagnant pond leads to disease and parasites, and that's what we have in Congress. So we need to get the water flowing, get term limits, and then we need transparency. We need to know who's paying Congress, who's paying them to use our money in the ways that's not helping us. So term limits and transparency, and that'd be it. Thank you.
Mr. Robb.
So we've already talked about presidential pardons. We've talked about bringing the troops home. We've talked about executive orders, which are basically just the president's directions to the government on how to execute laws. They're a legitimate power of the office. One thing that we haven't talked about is appointments. Let me ask you guys something. How would you like to see Daniel Tax is Theft Behrman as the head of the IRS? Do you think that sounds awesome? How would you like to, Adam Kokesh, how would you like to be in charge of the VA? Spin that down, get that privatized, right? The president can influence the government not just temporarily, but for decades by getting the right people in the right offices, libertarian people interested in freedom, willing to make the changes that we need institutionally to start dismantling these government programs and returning power to the people. Thank you.
Mr. Hornberger.
I don't think it's sufficient to just bring the troops home from these forever wars. I favor bringing the troops home from everywhere. Korea, Europe, World War II's over, Latin America, bring them all home and discharge them into the private sector. I favor a limited government republic. That was the kind of government that we were founded on, with a basic military force. Lift all sanctions and embargoes that target innocent people in Korea, Iran, and other places. End these destructive trade wars and tariffs that Trump has done with executive decree. And then, of course, pardon all nonviolent offenders. Not just drug offenders, any offenders. Pardon Edward Snowden, Ross Ulbricht, Julian Assange. That we send a message to these Democrats and Republicans: your way of life is over. Here is the better direction that leads our nation in a peaceful, prosperous, harmonious, and free direction.
Mr. Armstrong.
Well, I mean, we hear people making bold promises, and I guess we all want to bring about some kind of libertarian utopia, but the fact of the matter is there's just things that we don't have the power to do, and we're not being anointed king. That's kind of the whole point. So we do have to work within the system that we're given. We're running for president. And within that system, there are things that we can do right away, that we have the power and the authority to do. One of those things is we can refuse to use the power that's given to us, I think, unconstitutionally, in the War Powers Act. We can just flatly refuse to declare any kind of war that Congress doesn't declare. And they haven't declared one in 79 years. They're not going to start now. The people won't let them. Another one is the Patriot Act. We don't have to use the FISA warrants. We don't have to use all of the stuff that has flown out of the Patriot Act. We don't have to take the rights of Americans away from them. We can just simply stop doing that.
Mr. Williams.
Well, first, I follow my job description that's laid out in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. I realized running for president Article 2 of the Constitution defines my job description and gives me my authority of what I can do. Decriminalizing drugs is mandatory. I've been in prison for selling drugs. Well, no, I beat the dope case. Sorry, I went to jail. Let's say that. And one thing, we have the Second Chance Act initiative from George Bush, the Fair Sentencing Act from Barack Obama, and the First Step Act from Donald Trump, DT. It's not even fully funded. So by implementing and enforcing what's already done, repealing the 1994 Crimes Bill Act, these are things that a president can do. I will never promise something I can't do. I will not tell a lie. Very transparent about what my job description is. So that's what I would, first do, my job description. Thank you.
Mr. Behrman.
The two most powerful things that a libertarian president can do is veto and pardon. When you look at the Democrats and the Republicans, you're going to hear all these amazing promises that they're going to come out and say, we're going to fix this, we're going to create these programs, we're going to do this for you, we're going to give you everything. Those types of presidents need new laws to be passed. But when it comes to libertarian presidents, no, we actually just need to stop enforcing or stop acting on the laws that are already there. We can walk into the IRS on day one and say, you're all fired, go home. We can do that to the ATF and the DEA and half of the other alphabet agencies. And there's no consequences to that. And then when Congress comes with another bill, we can just veto it.
Dr. Jorgensen.
I'm running for office because government is too big, too bossy, too nosy, too intrusive, and it often hurts those it intends to help. So yes, bring all our troops home, turn America into one giant Switzerland, armed and neutral. Yes, pardon all nonviolent sex offenders, sex workers, drug users and so forth, because if there is no victim, there is no crime. Something that hasn't been mentioned, though, is the budget. The problem that we have is Congress is lying to the American public. They say, okay, we're cutting taxes. What happens is they've set some baseline, some imaginary line that's what they're cutting from. It's kind of like me saying, you know what, I'm going to gain 10 pounds a year for the next 10 years. Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm just going to gain 8 pounds a year. There, I've lost 2 pounds a year. That's not losing weight. I'm going to tell Congress, step on the scale and you better lose weight.
Mr. Kokesh.
Could you repeat the question, please, Mr. Phillips?
From the confines of executive powers, what specific practical changes would you make?
So you're saying that if we decided we were going to follow all the government rules. Are y'all libertarians? How much do you guys like following the rules? Yeah, that's what I thought. What I am offering with this campaign, what my team is offering, is a fundamental departure from acceptance of the paradigm of authority. To say we are going to follow the rules, we are only going to accept the powers that the system gives us, is a failure in our potential for leadership as libertarians. We have to change the paradigm. None of these promises mean anything if they don't have the support of the American people. If the American people decide this is how it's going to be, then we are going to make it happen. And all of the candidates on stage, I'm going to name them by name and give them a chance. Joe, Andy, Jacob, Ken, Vermin, Alan, Sam, Ken, and Mr. Taxation staff, Dan Behrman. If any of them were elected president, they'd be saying we're going to keep the size of government geographically exactly the same. What I am offering is the chance for the American people to say we are not going to put up with these nonsense rules at all any longer. And I would challenge any of the other candidates to say, realistically, what are they going to do to actually change that power structure fundamentally?
Does anyone wish to respond?
Yeah.
All right, let's get a show of hands. All right. I saw Mr. Behrman first. Go ahead. You have 30 seconds.
So, like you said, yeah, we can't do it without the support of the people. Not a single person up here is ever going to get elected without the support of the people. And not even just the support of the people, but a much bigger support of the people than would ever take to get someone like Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders elected because of the systems that they're in. So, with that support, we can all make this happen.
Dr. Jorgensen?
Yeah, I just want to say government gets its power in part from money. If we take away the money, we're taking away a lot of their power. So, for instance, I've had people say, well, what about the Department of Education? You can't get rid of it on the first day. Yes, but what I can do is ask the cabinet members and ask Congress to get the money out of it, because if there's no money behind it, there's no power. So, yes, I want to reduce government at every level and reduce the size and scope and power of government.
Go ahead, Andy.
I'll be honest on this. Until you really get in the office on the job, you really don't know what you can and can't do because you haven't even made it to the job yet. So to give out a whole bunch of promises of what we're going to do does not make sense to me. What I do know is people got 2 years to get it together, because if not, we're going downstate and we're going to endorse every candidate that's libertarian-minded. So in 2 years, Congress will change, and we'll change their salaries, because, you know, when you're broke and you come in, you don't need $171,000 a year. Thank you.
Mr. Blevins.
I think reducing the size of the federal government back to constraints of the Constitution, reducing the spending, and getting transparency, getting the term limits in order to get the corruption out will help to reduce the size of the government. So that's.
Anyone else seeking to respond? All right. I saw Mr. Armstrong.
Yeah, you know, I'm sorry. I know it's not popular to talk about following rules in a libertarian crowd, but the fact of the matter is that when we finally get into the Oval Office, they're going to be doing their best to get us out of there. And if we don't follow the rules, we'll be in that office about 15, 20 minutes, not even long enough to warm up the seat, I don't think. So we're going to have to learn to work with the system that's there for us to work in. There's no sense being elected president otherwise.
Mr. Supreme?
Well, it just brings to mind that a big part of the problem, as I perceive it, is that the bureaucratic industrial complex exists, and that so many people are employed doing redundant tasks. 30% of healthcare costs are purely bureaucratic in nature. The Libertarian Party is a party of anarchists and minarchists, really trying to bring that government down and make it as small as possible until, as Ronald Reagan once said, drown in a bathtub. Thank you.
Jacob Hornberger.
What I would love to see in this campaign is the American people discussing and debating two questions. What does it really mean to be free? And what is the legitimate role of government in a free society? Because if people are thinking about those two questions, I think we've got a real shot at having the kind of society we want. And it's not utopian. It's only utopian when it's not possible to be achieved. This is a society, a free society, that is possible.
Any more rebuttals? Mr. Robb.
One thing I have a problem with when you talk about the dissolution of the government is that the government that exists right now in the United States is a contract between 50 sovereign states. And as a libertarian, I don't believe that we have the right to come into a contract between two entities or two individuals and tell them that that contract is invalid. If we want to dissolve the government, then we need to convince the states that they need to dissolve the government. We cannot do it unilaterally.
Mr. Monds?
We have to make the argument about what the president can do, what a libertarian president can do, and let the people decide if what we suggest is important to them. That's why messaging is so key. It's not that we're saying, that the chances of us getting elected, are very large or very capable. The fact is we can change the argument. We can change the dialogue from the other candidates, and that is important. Letting people know what the president can do unilaterally and letting the people judge what we say.
All right. All the candidates that have been mentioned have responded, that want to respond.
I think it's Sam's answer, right? Is there someone else?
Go ahead and take your 30 seconds.
I did my best not to mention you by name, Adam. Oops, I guess I just did. We're libertarians here.
So I'm glad you bring up the issue of the social contract or the Constitution as such. But as far as I know, my libertarian principles tell me it's not okay to force a contract on someone who hasn't signed it. And what we're talking about here is keeping a system going that is fundamentally unsustainable. The federal government of the United States has become extremely corrupt, extremely destructive, extremely good at ripping us off, extremely good at Epstein didn't kill himself, and keeping it going would be extremely irresponsible, and that's what everybody else in this race is proposing.
Thank you. All right, we'll get to our final question before closing arguments. This will go to Kenneth Blevins first. The Libertarian nominee will spend much of the campaign educating voters and the media about what it means to be a libertarian. What is your libertarian elevator pitch?
My pitch would be freedom. Individual responsibility, individual freedom. In the movie Spider-Man, they say, with great power comes great responsibility. That's BS. With great freedom comes great responsibility. But it is within our human nature to be free, and the responsibility is ours to do with our life what we see fit, not the governments to tell us what to do. So if you want to be free, then you should vote for a libertarian. If you want to be controlled by a corrupt government, then keep on voting for the duopoly.
Sam Robb.
Thank you. It's tax season. How many of you guys are looking forward to that? Yay! Yeah! Okay. What was the last interaction you had with government? It might be filling out your taxes. It might be going to the DMV. It might be dealing with the nice officer who tells you that you can't have more than 250 people in this room now because of COVID-19. Who knows what it is, but I'll guarantee you this. Your last interaction with government was not happy and was not fun. And we need to convince people, and we need to talk to people and get them to understand it's all like that. There is no special government agency that actually is sunshine and roses and ponies, unfortunately. It would be awesome if it was, right? But there's not. They're all like this. The interaction you have with the DMV is what you're going to have with the VA, is what you're going to have with the EPA, is what you're going to have with the DEA, is what you're going to have with any other three-letter agency, and certainly what you're going to have with the IRS. It's all like that. It all needs to go. Thank you.
Jacob Hornberger. Jacob Hornberger.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think we make the case for liberty. I mean, that's what we're all about as libertarians. That's our goal, to achieve the free society. That's why you come to these conventions. That's why you donate to this party, why you're part of this cause. You want to live the life of a free man and a free woman before you pass from this earth. And we make that case to the American people, which necessarily entails identifying what the infringements on liberty are and then dismantling them. If all we do is succeed in reforming the welfare warfare state serfdom under which we live, we will not have achieved freedom. And then secondly, that this is the solution to the problems that Democrats and Republicans have foisted upon our land. Immigration, health care, foreign policy, drug war, mandatory charity, out-of-control spending and debt. The solution to all of these problems is libertarianism, and that's the case we make to the American people.
Ken Armstrong.
Well, I think we're going to find ourselves in pretty heated agreement here about just about everything because, I mean, after all, we're really pointed at the same target. What we've got is some slightly different ideas of how to get to that target. But my elevator message is pretty simple. Who owns you?
Andy Williams Jr.
Maximum freedom, minimum government, freedom, liberty, and justice for all. I have a dream. Let freedom ring.
Dan, Taxation is Theft Behrman.
I would have to ask back, why? Why would I want to go around and tell everybody what a libertarian is? It doesn't work. You have all these people who are out there who are following Bernie Sanders. Why? Because they care what a Democrat is? No. Because there's a problem in their life, and someone's giving them a solution. And if you want to get voter support on any libertarian idea, you don't go around telling them what a libertarian is. You find out what problem they have in this world, and you figure out how to show them that government is the problem that's creating it. And when you do that, the next thing you'll have is that person saying, why don't we just get rid of that organization? Then they know what a libertarian is.
Joe Jorgensen.
From my work in marketing, I know that the same pitch doesn't work for everyone. So you need to tailor it to who you're talking to. That being said, I think there's a great way to get the message across, which is to ask somebody, and by the way, this isn't mine originally, this is a classic technique, is to ask somebody, let's say you just won the lottery or got an inheritance, and you've got an extra $80,000, and you want to do good with it. You want to help somebody who needs the help. Would you maybe start your own charity? Would you give it to, let's say, Bill Gates or Oprah Winfrey, who are out there, spreading good, starting up charities over in Africa? Or would you give it to a federal government agency? And the response is usually that. They laugh. Of course I wouldn't give it to the government. Okay, case closed. Private sector can do so much better. The free market can do so much better than the government. If you wouldn't give them your money voluntarily, why do you want to give it involuntarily?
Adam Kokesh.
You, as a free, beautiful, independent human being with inalienable rights, own yourself. As a result, you can do what you want with your own body and own the product of your labor. The implication is that it is morally wrong to initiate force against someone else or their property because to do so is to violate their rights. Therefore, all human interactions should be free of force, fraud, and coercion, and people should be free to exercise their rights limited only by respect for the rights of others. When you learned don't hit and don't steal, it wasn't unless you work for the government. When you learned thou shalt not kill, it wasn't unless your dear leader gives you a gun and a uniform and a one-way ticket to the other side of the world. Government is force, an opinion with a gun, and force is a poor substitute for persuasion. Governments frighten us into thinking we need them, but with knowledge, philosophy, and technology, we are empowering ourselves and each other to have the courage to move past the paradigm of statism and restrain government to only moral uses of force, at least until we can replace it with the cooperative free market solutions that will soon render it obsolete. That's the script of The Message of Freedom in 1 minute from the Adam Kokesh YouTube channel with over 100,000 views already. Let's stick with a principled message that works.
Vermin Supreme.
Thank you. Many people ask me, Vermin, why do you wear a boot on your head? And I tell these people that it stands for all that is great in America, the ability to wear a boot on your head if you want to. My question is, how much freedom can you stand? I will ask people, do you believe that the government should be able to tell you what you can do, when you can do it, where you can do it, and how you can do it? Do you believe that the government is entitled to your hard-earned money under threat of imprisonment? Do you believe that you can make the best decisions that affect your life? And if they answer yes to these questions, then I say, well, you may be a libertarian and not even know it. Thank you.
John Monds.
The message should be simple, and it's this. You can't have a free country without free people. Ask the American public, do you truly believe you are freer today than your ancestors in 1776? Do you believe you're freer today than my ancestors were in 1865? We've had a war on poverty and still have poverty. We have a war on drugs and still have drug use hasn't gone down. What we really have had through the Democrats and Republicans is a war on people. If you want to end that war and become free, then follow the party that has the freedom agenda. That's the Libertarian Party. Come get on the train.
Thank you so much, candidates, for your well thought out and inspirational answers. We're going to now move on to closing statements. And here comes the bad news. We've been racking up the seconds that you go over on your questions, and we will be removing those seconds from your closing statements. We told you that in the beginning. You probably didn't listen. That's okay. We're going to move forward anyways. So.
Question, Josh. What happens if you go negative?
Excuse me?
I'm just curious. What happens?
We'll ask Ken Armstrong. He's the only one that got there, I think. So we're going to start with Jacob Hornberger at 83 seconds. Please go ahead, Mr. Hornberger.
We are libertarians. We are not Republican lights. We are not Democrat lights. We are libertarians, and we need to fight as libertarians. The greatest asset of this party is the party of principle in this political arena. If all that we do is succeed in reforming this welfare, warfare state way of life, a better IRS, a better DEA, a better Pentagon and CIA, we will not have achieved freedom. To achieve freedom, we need to make the case to our fellow Americans for freedom. And that's where our principles come in. Not only are they the key to liberty, but they are the practical solution to the woes that besiege our society. If we raise people's vision to that higher level, I think it is the destiny of this party to lead the world to the highest reaches of freedom that mankind has ever seen, to a free, peaceful, prosperous, and harmonious direction. I would like to be your presidential spokesman to make that case for the free society. And that's why I'm here at your convention, asking for your vote, your support, and your nomination in May. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hornberger. Moving on, and this may shock you, Mr. Ken Armstrong, you have 54 seconds.
Okay, well, let's see. I've got a gorgeous wife, and so if you look at that, that speaks for itself. Folks, come to my website, learn more about me. 54 seconds isn't enough time to tell you the story. Armstrong2020.com.
Next, we'll move on to Mr. Andy Williams Jr. with 84 seconds.
Well, I'll say this. My platform is www.lp.org. That's it. I'm libertarian. That's what I'm going to tell you. But I'm going to drop this little rhyme for y'all, because this is how I get the hip-hop community and a whole bunch of other people. Way beneath the grass that didn't grow. Like the leaves in the trash when the wind blows. The least expected. Black sheep with my kinfolk. 360. I'm the reason that these men vote. Not your average politician that you love to hate. I present myself to you, the hood candidate. Determined, dedicated, defiant. The mind of King David when he overcame Goliath. The little man is the big man now. The one you used to doubt has the big plans now. The last is now the first. Now I'm back on the block. No more slanging and banging, but I'm back on top. Why not? That's what they say when they ask me why. In every prison, every ghetto, listen, I'm that guy. They ask me who I am and who I'm trying to be. Libertarian, true growth and development. That's just me. AWJ 2020. Peace.
Thank you so much, Mr. Andy Williams. Next, we're going to move on to Dan. Taxation is theft. Behrman with 70 seconds. Time started, Dan.
Hang on a second. Let me think here. So, follow me on social media. And I have a really interesting story to tell that I can't tell here in 70 seconds. But what I can tell you is this. I'm living the libertarian dream. I don't pay, for the most part, taxes. I haven't had a driver's license in 14 years. I'm married, and I didn't ask the government permission. Everything I do is without government. I don't even follow their borders. So, Behrman2020.com, check this out and see what we're actually doing. And one of the other things that I keep mentioning is that we've reached millions of people with this campaign, and I've done this swinging from a hammock in Mexico. Imagine what I could do if you gave me your nomination.
Thank you, Mr. Behrman. Dr. Joe Jorgensen with 89 seconds. You did really well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So when I first became a libertarian and I told people liberty, freedom, their eyes would glaze over and they would say, but we're the freest country in the world. And I realized what we need to do is we need to explain how freedom gives them affordable health care, how it gives them safer streets, how it gives them a cleaner environment, how it gives them higher quality education. We have to explain how it works in order to grow the movement because we've already got everybody who's here for liberty purely for liberty's sake. We don't do it by watering down the platform. We do it by explaining how a hardcore platform can solve problems. I received a wonderful email from somebody who said he was a longtime capital L libertarian, but he couldn't convince his wife to join. She was small L. And after hearing me, she's now become a large L libertarian because finally she said somebody's talking about actual solutions, somebody who can go against Trump and explain how we can change, how we can help our country. Please visit my website, joj2020.com, and I'm coming in short on this one too.
Thank you, Dr. Jorgensen. Next, we have Adam Kokesh with a whopping 70 seconds.
It was worth it. Wasn't it worth it, Libertarian Party of Illinois? You guys having fun tonight? So it comes down to a matter of trust. Do you trust the federal government? Do you trust it to protect your rights? To provide for you? Would you trust it if we just put the right person in charge of it? No. This message of localization is uniting people from across the spectrum because we're saying as libertarians, let's stop arguing issues and instead unite all of this country to say we're going to take issue with the idea of people thousands of miles away from us forcing their will on the rest of the country. This message is so unifying, in fact, that even Donald Trump said he would vote for me as long as he could be president of a state with no Mexicans or Muslims. So, localization, this is the cure for polarization because everybody gets what they want. Let's give the American people what they want and stop the duopoly once and for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kokesh. Surprisingly, a big rule follower, Vermin Supreme, with 87 seconds.
I've been running a satirical humor campaign for some 30 years. I have been building an audience that spans the political spectrum and all the demographics. I have reached a level of notoriety that is allowing me to make a legitimate offer to you, the LP, as a pragmatic candidate. Now, can a serious party put up a perceived joke candidate and not have that stick to them? I say yes. I believe it's in the framing. We are the political party. We are a serious political party. However, the duopoly presidential election cycle has risen to the level of a joke, and with love and with spite, here's Vermin Supreme. Hashtag we are in on the joke. How do I know my campaign is a real campaign this go-round? How do you even know? The only reason I can engage it is because I have a number of principled libertarians working on my staff. I have a number of principled libertarian endorsements, and amazingly, I have people gravitating. I have 3 Yang staffers who just came over to join our campaign. It's getting really real, and I ask you, can the Libertarian Party use humor as a weapon against the duopoly? I say yes. Can the Libertarian Party use humor as an outreach tool, as a recruitment tool, and an educational tool? I say yes. I say thank you for your consideration. My name is Vermin Supreme. Visit my website, verminsupreme2020.com. You're welcome to join us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Supreme. The surprising rule breaker of the night, Mr. John Monds with 31 seconds. It started.
With John Monds as your nominee, you have a candidate you can trust. Being and working in this party for over 15 years should count for something. Every race I've run has set some type of historical mark. I'll do the same thing as your nominee for president. Thank you.
Coming in first place with the most seconds, Kenneth Blevins at 90. Enjoy.
There once was a man from Illinois, and he said the words, "A government of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from this earth." That man got shot. But in order to run the government the way it's supposed to be ran, you'd take that chance. If you want to confine the government back to the Constitution, you take the chance of getting shot. If you want term limits, if you want transparency, if you want to reduce spending from $23 trillion in debt, and you want to reduce that deficit, you're taking a chance. There's 4 things I'd die for in this world: my God, my family, my country, and the thrill of riding bulls, which I've done for years. So I'm not afraid of it, and I'm willing to take the bullet for my country. Not the government, but each individual in this country that works and busts their ass in order to make a living. That's who I'm running for, because I'm of the people, for the people, and I will bust my ass for the working class. You can check me out on Facebook at Blevins for President 2020. You can check me out on the web at blevinspresident.org. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Blevins. Last, but certainly not least, Mr. Sam Robb with 76 seconds.
And I apologize to the lovely lady running the camera because I'm getting up and I'm pacing. As I mentioned, I am a preacher, and I would like to tell you, samrobb2020.com, I would value your support. I would value your vote in the nomination. And now I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to preach a little bit here for you. I'm going to preach freedom, because every one of these men and women up on this stage is a worthy candidate for President of the United States. Every last one of them. Here's the thing. There's not a single one of us that could do it on our own. There's not a single one of us that can make it happen sheerly by willpower. Ken Armstrong is trying. He certainly is. Adam's trying. I know if Jacob could do it just by gritting his teeth and making it happen, it would happen. We need you. Each and every one of you. This is the year. This is the time to get up, to get on your feet. You can go ahead and cut my mic. I'm just going to speak louder. You need to get on your feet, and you need to support your candidate, whoever it is. In the straw poll today, get online, throw some money at them. Help the state of Illinois with their ballot access. But you know what? Get online and support these guys. Support your candidate. Because here's what's going to happen. Somebody's going to support me.
Thank you, Mr. Robb.
Oh, no.
You.
Somebody's going to support me. Somebody's going to support Ken. Somebody's going to support
Libertarians of Illinois, please give a round of applause to your 2020 presidential candidates for the Libertarian Party.
Get out there and make it happen.